Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Greg. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Jupiter in Vedic Astrology, Thunder Wizard Astrology. If anybody's interested in getting a Thunder Astrology reading or a 12 house reading, go to greg.thunderwizard.com. And I was going to be talking about how Jupiter feels in each of the 12 houses, what kind of energy it's bringing to you. And these are just basically general descriptions because I'm not going to be taking into account any aspects or the sign that it's in or conjunctions, anything like that. Stuff like that can alter the effects of Jupiter. When you get good aspects, bad aspects, you get bad aspects, it can kind of give that good effects and bad effects. When it gets bad conjunctions, same thing. You can get these mixed kind of effects. So yeah, so if you don't know what Jupiter represents, Jupiter is really it's seen as the most optimistic of the planets in Vedic astrology. It's the most helpful. It's the most generous kind of a planet, the most benefic. It really represents our let's say like our evolution towards enlightenment. It really brings that positive support to the person. It um, it also represents knowing and living the spiritual laws of this universe. And when you connect to those spiritual laws, you really connect to your infinite soul, and it really brings that balance. And it's known as the optimistic planet. It's a planet of expansion. It represents that ether element that expands when you inhale. You're expanding the lungs, and of course, with that expansion, we want to bring a balance to that too. You know, and it's very an inclusive planet. It wants to unite everybody, bring all people together, and share its knowledge. It wants to share its wisdom to the world. It's very much the spiritual teacher. It represents our aspirations, our hopes. It's a very good luck kind of a planet. It brings wealth to the person. And yeah, like I was saying before, though, these all the planets, they represent a one-sided energy, meaning that they have to be balanced with other planets. So, you know, um, with Jupiter, as far as like the negative side goes, when it gets too optimistic and expansive, it can kind of make a person a little more vulnerable to like deceptive people. So you want to have those healthy boundaries inside of you because yeah, you don't want that in your life. So it can keep you into that pure happy enlightenment where you're not really seeing what's going on. You want to bring in those healthy boundaries into your life. And Thor, the god in the Norse mythology, he's the one that really helps to solidify the boundaries. He represents Jupiter, and he represents those healthy boundaries. He reminds us about the boundaries that we need to have. Or or you can use the planet Saturn too. Jupiter is expanding, Saturn is contracting. Saturn is more of the pessimistic vibration. Saturn and Jupiter balance each other out in those polarities. And so Saturn really helps to really pick up on people who have good intentions and bad intentions for you. It can help. It can keep those BS detectors uh, really intense in your life. It can help you to be aware of all that. So you want to be careful about that. You don't want to get Jupiter off balance in your life. That's the negative of Jupiter. So yeah, so when Jupiter is in your first house, it really represents somebody who has a lot of good health, someone who's very good at taking care of the body and their mind, and it brings a good spouse to the person too. It brings a good education, good religious or spiritual dedication. Um, yeah, there's stuff like that. It can make a person a good like a teacher, psychologist, spiritual kind of advisor, people who are into self-help. It's a really good position because the foundation of somebody's personality is being stabilized by Jupiter. And Jupiter is it's that most beneficial, most optimistic of the planets. So it's a good position to have. When it goes into the second house, right here we have this is related to business. So this positive energy of abiding by the law comes into the business mind of a person. So it makes somebody very law abiding as a business person. This is somebody that can be relied on in business. Somebody who has a good reputation in business. It can bring some good gains to a person in business. This person might be have a family business, some connection to family business, or they gained their interest in this business through their family, stuff like that. They have really high values in their family. So there can be a good connection with the family right there. And when it gets into the third house, this is someone who has good relations with their siblings and the spouse too, because it's aspecting the seventh house when Jupiter's in the third. So it can bring a good relationship with the siblings, the spouse. This can be a good communication ability too. Somebody who has good writing skills too, very creative, and geared towards more the positive too. This is somebody who, when it comes to courage and willpower, they're really for the good. Everything's all for the good, for the positive. They stand up for what's right. This is like somebody like Martin Luther King. Somebody who's getting death threats and all that stuff, but he's still out there preaching equality. But he's not out there with guns, and even though he knows he might possibly get assassinated, and he did. He still stood for peace. Or somebody like Gandhi, the same thing. They protest through peace. When it gets into the fourth house, it's very comfortable in the fourth house, because the fourth house is originally ruled by Cancer, which is the moon, and Jupiter is very comfortable in the sign of Cancer with the moon, the mother goddess energy, because here Jupiter is able to boost that energy of the nurturing powers of the mother goddess, meaning the great powers of the mind geared towards positivity. There is the emotions too. The emotions are very positive. When this person goes through those downs and depressions, they have it in them to overcome these abilities, these abilities, these setbacks. They can neutralize them with the power of Jupiter. They have some kind of ability to naturally get over stuff, and they could have this good relationship with the mother too, good upbringing in the family. The home life was very positive. They can have this connection to real estate too. They could have an interest in being a real estate person. They could also have this, when they go out into nature, they have a natural connection to nature. They just feel at home when they're out there in nature spending time. And okay, let's go to the fifth house. The fifth house can bring a lot of wealth and creativity to a person. This is the house of education. It's a house of speculative business. So somebody involved in like the stock market, or being an actor, or musician, or having their own businesses where there's not that fixed amount of income coming in, they can bring a lot of good luck and wealth to a person when they have this position in the fifth house. They can be very good with mantra, meaning the spoken word, manifesting the spoken word into their life. They could have a good healthy children too, good relationships with their children, teaching their children the positive, teaching them the spiritual laws, that type of stuff. When it goes into the sixth house, this can give the ability to have a victory over their enemies. Somebody who's able to overcome their enemies. They have a knack for overcoming enemies, or not attracting enemies. This is a house of debt too. So when it comes to like somebody who gets off balance with Jupiter, they tend to overspend their money because they want all of these positive things. So there's that danger of becoming in debt with Jupiter in the sixth house, because someone will just spend too much money on things. This is also a house of disease too. So it's the same kind of thing. Somebody can be too much of a partier with the Jupiter in the sixth house. They could be drinking too much. They really enjoy the camaraderie of a party. They enjoy huge gatherings of people, so they can over party and over not get enough sleep. So this can bring disease. There's just those dangers. We got to keep that balance going on. When it gets into the seventh house, there's a good relationship with the spouse, It can really represent a long marriage. Business partnerships too are very healthy. It can bring a person more closely associated with the law too, being a lawyer, that type of stuff. Um, yeah, when it gets into the eighth house is that house of the. It represents the unconscious. It represents the ups and downs of life. So when somebody falls in life, when they get into debt, so this is when they're go into a depression, they have the ability to rise up really quick because Jupiter's bringing that optimism. It's really helping them look at more of the positive of things and getting over things. And this is really a house of spiritual powers too. So it could give somebody those healing kind of powers to themselves and to other people too. It really brings that power of deep occult type of energetic knowledge. That's it. It's that healing energy that comes when it goes into the ninth house. This represents somebody who's very connected to spirituality or religion. They had that upbringing in their life. They could come from a religious family or spiritual kind of a family. They can have that deep connection to their culture, or they can have some kind of affinity towards another culture. They're very attracted to it, and they're the beliefs that are associated with them. They could have a very good education too, and they can attain this like a positive reputation in society. So that it's a natural home for Jupiter too in the ninth house. When it gets into the tenth house it's in a weak position. Tenth house is the house of work. It's the house of physical work. It's the house of hard work. It's originally ruled by Capricorn, and Jupiter is not comfortable in the sign of Capricorn. So because Jupiter doesn't want to be out there in that kind of a hectic kind of work environment, it doesn't want to be where it's busy and it has to really do a lot of push itself really hard. Jupiter wants to be more of that spiritual kind of a teacher. It wants to be out there giving lectures, or it wants to be like somebody who's doing deep research, somebody who's in the back office, being an accountant or whatever, a biologist or something like that, a librarian, stuff like that. So that's it can make someone more attracted to stuff like that. Out there preaching spirituality, out there trying to awaken somebody to their personal destiny, that kind of stuff. When it gets into the 11th house, this is it can bring a lot of good luck when it comes to financial gains because it's about expansion and the 11th house is about gains. So it really brings that power, that knack for bringing gains into the person's life. Excuse me. And it can attract good business partners into somebody's life. The people that you associate with, the people you bring into business with, they're going to be positive people too. When it gets into the 12th house, now this is the original home of Pisces too, so it's in its comfort zone, but it's going to magnify that 12th house. That 12th house is a deep house of spirituality already. Jupiter gets here, it really makes the person highly spiritual. This can be like a guru, somebody who's totally 100% dedicated to just pure spirituality. So this can kind of isolate a person too, keep them away from society, and it could bring some kind of where they're kind of neglecting the material world. So it brings that detachment to the material world, but it can bring detachment also to the logical mind. Like I was saying, you don't want to be susceptible to deceptive people. It can bring that kind of energy, where you don't have those street smarts when you're going out into the world. So you want to balance those energies out when you have that. But it does give those great powers of spirituality. The imagination is highly creative. Yeah, so it brings that isolation. But you want to just, like I was saying, you want to balance that stuff out. So those are some basic general things about Jupiter in all 12 of the houses. If you're interested in getting a Thunder Astrology reading and getting a mantra, the mantras really help you to balance all of the energies in all 12 of your houses. You might get a mantra for Jupiter, but you might get something else because your own personal chart is going to point out what really needs the most focus to enhance your whole chart. And it really helps. You have to do the work too, though. You got to look inside yourself, and you got to make way for that spiritual energy, for that true soul of yourself to enlighten your whole being. You got to make room for it. So you got to clear out the unconscious. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to feel those energies. And yeah, it takes time too. You want to be patient with yourself too. Don't push yourself. Do it as at the pace you feel most comfortable with, and be consistent. 5-10 minutes a day is good. As long it is better than nothing. As long as you're consistent every day doing something. You want to push yourself forward, and feel comfortable in the body, and bring the spiritual into the body, and bring the body into the spiritual. So yeah, if anybody's interested in getting the readings, go to greg.thunderwizard.com. Still offering 25% off, and hope you guys have a good one. Peace.